Hello everyone, and welcome to my Sister Wives Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In what has now been described as one of the most explosive, raw, and brutally honest moments in the entire history of Sister Wives, the highly anticipated tell-all special finally arrived, and the entire Brown family, Kody, Robyn, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and even several of the children, came together in a way that had fans glued to their screens, airing out years of pent-up frustrations, heartbreak, betrayals, and truths that had been whispered about in private, but never fully confronted in such an open and public setting. As the cameras rolled and the host pressed each member of the plural family on the burning questions that viewers had been waiting to hear answered for over a decade of drama, jealousy, favoritism, and broken promises that ultimately shattered what was once promoted as a functioning, loving example of modern polygamy. And as the confessions poured out, the intensity of the conversations made it clear that there would be no going back to the way things once were. Because every stone was overturned and every grievance, both new and old, was dragged into the light for the world to see. Christine, who has been hailed by fans as the wife who broke free first and found her independence, did not hold back when speaking about how deeply hurt she was for years, explaining in heartbreaking detail how she felt like she was nothing more than a convenient caretaker, a background figure who raised children, cooked meals, and carried the emotional weight of the family, only to watch as Kody continuously poured his time, energy, and emotional availability into Robyn, whom Christine claimed was always treated as the real wife, while the rest were reduced to extras in Kody's grand fantasy of plural love. And she revealed that she stayed as long as she did not because she was happy, but because she was conditioned to believe that suffering in silence was noble, until she realized her children were watching her become a shell of herself, and she decided that breaking free would not only save her but empower them. And as Christine's raw words echoed through the room, Janelle chimed in with her own revelations, admitting that while she had always been seen as the pragmatic, steady partner who didn't demand as much emotional intimacy from Kody, she too had been deeply wounded by his withdrawal, especially during the pandemic, when she felt abandoned and unfairly villainized for choosing to maintain relationships with her adult children instead of adhering to Kody's rigid, fear-driven rules. And her voice cracked as she revealed the pain of watching her sons, including Garrison and Gabriel, feel rejected by their own father to the point where communication had become fractured beyond repair. And Janelle held nothing back when she accused Kody of prioritizing his control and his ego over the well-being of the family, an accusation that seemed to hang heavily in the room, especially as the cameras panned to Kody, whose fiery temper and defensive tone returned as he tried to push back against the narrative that he had chosen Robyn over everyone else, insisting that he had always wanted unity, but that his wives refused to respect him as the head of the household. A statement that was met with visible eye rolls from Meri and Christine, while Janelle sternly reminded him that leadership is earned, not demanded, and the tension between them was so thick that even the host seemed unsure how to navigate the storm. But it was Meri's voice, often overlooked in the family dynamic, that delivered perhaps one of the most shocking and heartbreaking moments of the special, as she calmly but powerfully revealed the depth of her loneliness over the past decade, explaining that while she tried desperately to remain loyal to Kody even after their legal divorce and the catfishing scandal that nearly broke her, she eventually had to admit to herself that her love and loyalty were never reciprocated. And in one chilling statement she declared, "I was married to a man who stopped loving me years ago, but he just didn't have the courage to say it out loud," leaving viewers stunned and Robyn visibly shaken, as Meri went on to suggest that while Kody may have convinced himself he was being honest in recent years, the truth was that his actions had spoken louder than his words long before that. And she emphasized that she had been excluded from family decisions, pushed aside emotionally, and left to endure a marriage in name only, something she now sees as cruel and unnecessary, and her decision to finally walk away, while painful, was also freeing in a way she never imagined possible. And as she spoke, many fans noted the mix of grief and quiet empowerment in her demeanor, as though she had finally shed a weight she had been carrying alone for far too long. Robyn, meanwhile, who has long been portrayed as the favorite wife, found herself under a spotlight of scrutiny unlike any other, as both the host and the other wives directly asked her about her role in the unraveling of the family, and though she tearfully claimed she never wanted to be the cause of division, her words were met with skepticism as Christine and Janelle both noted that Robyn benefited from dynamics that disadvantaged the rest of them, pointing out that Kody consistently bent the rules for her children while refusing to do the same for theirs. And Christine went so far as to suggest that Robyn encouraged Kody's favoritism by feeding his ego and validating his decisions rather than challenging him when he was wrong. A statement that caused Robyn to break down and insist that she too has suffered, especially from the hate of fans who see her as manipulative. But even in her tears, many could not ignore the glaring reality that she remains in the mansion with Kody while the others are left to rebuild their lives outside the shadow of the patriarch. And the symbolism of that fact was not lost on anyone watching. But perhaps the most devastating part of the tell-all came when the adult children's voices were finally included, as Maddie, Michael T. and others shared their perspectives on what it was like to grow up in a plural household that was supposed to represent unity, but instead often felt like a hierarchy of love, where some children felt more valued than others depending on which wife they came from. And in a moment that brought tears to many, Gabriel's struggles with his father's rejection were revisited, with Janelle confirming that her son's mental health was deeply impacted by the estrangement, and that the damage of those choices may never fully heal. And the host gently asked Kody if he had any regrets about how he handled the pandemic and its aftermath, only for Kody to launch into a defensive rant about being the only one trying to protect the family. A rant that was immediately undercut by Christine's sharp interjection that protecting the family means showing up emotionally, not hiding behind rules that ultimately serve to alienate and divide. And the silence that followed was deafening, as Kody's face turned red and Robyn reached out to comfort him while the others sat back, exhausted from years of fighting for validation. By the end of the tell-all, the picture was clearer than ever. This was not just a story of a family falling apart, but of individuals finally reclaiming their voices after years of silence, of women who realized that their worth was never dependent on the approval of a man who saw himself as a leader, but behaved more like a dictator, and of children who grew up in the crossfire of ideals that crumbled under the weight of favoritism and control. And as the credits rolled, one thing was certain: Sister Wives would never be the same again, because the truth spoken in that room could not be taken back, and the tell-all, rather than offering closure, opened the door to new beginnings for some and a sobering reality check for others, leaving fans both devastated by the wreckage of what once was, and inspired by the resilience of those who finally chose to break free, making it one of the most unforgettable and defining moments in reality TV history. Sister Wives is coming back with Season 20. This year, we may experience a range of ups and downs in the show. The characters are undergoing drastic changes, and these may also lead a few of them to move away from their roots. There was uncertainty over the summer about whether the season would return, but now that TLC has released its first look trailer on Thursday, we now have an idea of what might happen in the season. Interestingly, Kody also discussed with Robyn that a woman had reached out to him online. The woman wants to join the Brown family as his wife, and Robyn was not at all happy with the prospect. In the previous season, viewers saw Kody announce that he no longer wanted to continue polygamy for various reasons. However, it seems like he had a change of heart as soon as a new woman approached. So, could he be moving away from that decision?